Hi, everyone. This is your podcast host, Darshan, or Dippy, as I'm known to my friends, back after a long hiatus. So, friends, yesterday, no, not yesterday, last week, I got an opportunity to watch Heeramandi, which is a series by Sanjay Leela Bhansali on Netflix. And then, as it always happens, when I watch a series or a movie that a good friend of mine has also watched, we'll end up getting on a call and just talking to each other about it. So I figured, why not actually record that conversation this time and present it as a podcast? So without much ado, I'm going to introduce my friend Suman. I have known her for more than a quarter of a century, so that's more than 25 years. And we talk a lot. We have common interests. We have been good friends for a long time. So I'm ready to start my conversation with my friend Suman. But before that, Suman, why don't you just give a brief introduction about yourself?
Um, Thanks, DP. For your listeners, I am Suman Kachru. I'm a techie, a news junkie, and I also love watching movies and docu-series. And I've watched Heeramandi as well, and so here we are.
Perfect. So let me begin with a very simple question. Overall rating, like if you had to rate it from 1 to 10 or stars, 1 to 5 stars, what would you rate it?
So if I have to rate it from 1 to 10, I would rate it a 4.
Oh my God, that's
Yes,
bad.
yes.
Wow. Okay, different perspective than mine entirely, right? So
Yeah,
because
yeah.
personally I would rate it a 7 at least. But then this
Okay.
is why we are having this conversation. So we're going to discuss why we have a difference of opinion here, right? So
Yes, yes, of course.
for me, I'll probably talk about something that maybe you and I can both agree on. At least I hope so. That is Manisha Koirala, right? So she
Yes.
did the role of Malika Jan, and I have watched her in a lot of movies. I actually had the good fortune to meet her when she was in Atlanta for a movie shooting that was about 5 years ago or something. And she's
Oh,
always
that's
come
really
across to
good.
me as a very, very soft spoken person, right? And doing those
Mm-hmm.
romantic roles and this and that. And in this series, we saw her as, a woman, a strong woman, and she's even very cunning at times,
Yeah,
thoda sa negative role bhi hai if you look at it like that. So
true.
I figure, I mean, to me, I thought, oh my God, what an amazing performance by Manisha ji. So what is your opinion of that?
So, Manisha Koirala basically carried the series on her shoulders. That's my opinion about it. I think her character was the only well researched, thought out character in the whole series. And you have other women there. I don't think Sanjay Leela Bhansali paid much attention to anybody else. Uh, if you want me to go into why I rated it at 4, I can talk about that, but we can talk about it later. I do,
Mm.
however, agree that Manisha did an amazing job.
Okay, so you said it. So tell me why you rated it at 4.
So for me, like I mentioned, I watch a lot of docu series. I watch lots of drama, not just Indian, but hey, Netflix, Hulu, everything. To me, the hallmark of a good movie or a docu series is how much it touches you. It should move you. I watched series where I didn't have anything in common with the characters, and yet it left me so impacted that I was thinking about it at night. Like, how did this happen or why? You should be able to place yourself in the series with the characters and kind of empathize or not. Like I've watched series about killers. Now, obviously, I'm I would never endorse anybody killing anybody else. And yet the movie maker made it in such a way where I was able to see the whole scenario from the point of the view of the killer. You know what I mean? So I
Mm-hmm.
did not find the series very touching. I mean, obviously the sets were opulent, the costumes were beautiful, but I didn't quite get where Sanjay Leela Bhansali wanted to take it.
Yeah,
That
and actually
was,
two
yeah,
things about that. I think one, Sanjay Leela Bhansali is known for his opulent sets and
hmm,
all that, and obviously beautiful women. And oh my God, jewelry! Like I have to talk about the
yeah,
jewelry because I may not be able to carry off even one piece of jewelry from that, from the series myself, but I was like loving, like looking at, loving or
you
lovingly
know,
looking at all the
I have
jewelry,
some
right?
advice for you, DP. You are so
Tell
much
me.
into this Indian jewelry and all that. Maybe there should be a separate podcast to review all that. The
I made this.
costumes and the jewelry.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Costumes, I definitely couldn't carry them off by by any means. But yeah, I was really ogling like all the beautiful earrings and necklaces and the pasta, the
Yeah.
thing you wear on the side and all that. So definitely, I could do a whole podcast on just that. But coming back to the point that you mentioned, I think I have to agree that the acting of a lot of the people in this series, a lot of the actors left a lot to be desired, right? Because I thought Sonakshi was reasonably good. Aditi Rao Hydari, she looked good. She looked very beautiful, no doubt about it, right? In some of the scenes, there was a song. I love the music of the series, by the way, because it had very thumri style and classical
Yeah.
style of music, which I like. So for me, that was a plus. Maybe these are the factors why I rated it a 7 and not 4 like you did, because these are certain things that appeal to me. But one thing that I wanted to talk about related to acting is that somebody in this series who has played one of the main roles, and I'm talking about Sanjay Leela Bhansali's niece,
Hmm.
Sharmin Sehgal. She's received a lot of flack, because to me also, she appeared quite wooden in some of the scenes, and so it sort of sparked the whole debate about nepotism, right? And do you think this
Yeah.
was a nepotism situation where, this was a very
I.
main character? What is
I
your take?
totally. I agree with you on that. Like, had Sharmin Sehgal not been Sanjay Leela Bhansali's niece, I'm unsure if she would have been cast in this role. Having said that, I've seen bad acting from a lot of people with movie connections. Talk about Ranbir Kapoor's first movie. I mean, you know, the difference though is Charmaine will get more chances to better her skills, and maybe at some point she'll be good because she has the connections. But I totally agree with you. Her expressions were not that great. Her delivery, like she seemed to appear the same, whether the scene was sad, happy. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, it almost seemed like the scene in which she's informed about, Taj, whatever. I don't want to give away the
Hmm.
storyline, but there is
Yeah.
a sad scene, and then she has such a wooden expression. And I'm like, come on. I mean, this is a scene that even the worst actor can probably give a better expression, right? So
I
it was
hear you.
really sad to watch it, to watch her performance. And I think for me, I mean, the music and so like I said, the costumes, the
Costume.
jewelry kind of sort of carried the series. And of course, Manisha ji, as you said earlier, sort of made it, a little more palatable, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then So there was this interesting concept because a lot of people thought that maybe this series has some actual historical reference, right? Like, as in
Mm-hmm.
maybe there
Mm-hmm.
was some
Mm-hmm.
connection with
There was somebody like
Heeramandi and
her. Yeah. Yeah.
right, and the independence movement or whatever, like the
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
period that he has shown in the series. But I was actually doing some research and I found out that actually no, because this Hira Mandi had already declined. Like, it was not a center of culture and all the Nawabs
Totally.
visiting and all that
Yeah.
by the time Britishers were there, because even
There.
like around Aurangzeb era, the Hira Mandi's decline was already there. It had already started,
Yeah.
and it was more like a brothel. And then even from that point, it
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
moved on from being a brothel. So,
So,
um,
see, here was that was another problem that I had with Heeramandi. So, I had also, when I watched Heeramandi, I did some research as well. And there is a podcaster from Pakistan. And normally I don't listen, like, if it's any, but it seemed like the reviews were amazing for his podcast. And I actually watched it. So he had a very good take. So apparently, before Aurangzeb, at some point early on, Heeramandi was a center of dance and music and arts, and it was pretty good. And, he talked about, he made references to history, and he said not only were women a part of this group in Heeramandi, there were men. They all, he actually cited the names of a few of our classical singers, from that Gharana where, amazing singers who came from that area. But then, by the time the Brits came, yes, it had declined to an extent where, these women were not just artists. There was a connection which we saw in Heeramandi as well. It kind of made me sad because um, there are, there Sanjay Leela Bhansali, being such an eminent filmmaker, could have picked something which was impactful. You know what I mean? In this series, you show these women, and Malika Jan, she was such a strong woman. But in the end, it's just like a mishmash. Okay, Bibbo Jan was supporting all these rebels, and in the end, because of Bibbo Jan's connection, everybody else joins in. But I didn't see like a very heavy connection where he was trying to project that these women were fighting for, independence and all that. It just showed a group of women who were dependent on the money of Nawabs, and, you know, it kind of left me, I wasn't very touched, and there were times in the series where, sorry to tell you that, I had to do a fast forward. I just couldn't sit through. And this is a person who watched the Game of Thrones, and I just couldn't miss anything. And that series had so many characters and, was so out of the world, but it was so well made that it kept you coming back. So I didn't see the same thing with Heeramandi, which is why I, rated it worse than. But I have to say, having said all that, um, Manisha Koirala, I mean, she gave life to that character. I have to mention the scene where she goes to, anyway, I don't want to give anything away, but she's talking to this British officer, where when her daughter is, yeah. Do you know which scene I'm talking about? Where
yeah,
she
yeah, I
is
know.
really treated. She did such justice. That was in the whole series, that was one scene that truly moved me. Like, I was deeply touched.
Right. No, I mean, and like you said, I think you mentioned this earlier. She practically carried the entire series on her shoulders, right? I
Yeah.
mean, to me, that is the highlight. If I few years later, if I'm talking about or thinking about Heeramandi, this I will remember it for Manisha Ji's performance there rather than anything else, right? That's definitely there. And and to talk about, like, I did watch the whole series. I did not fast forward, but I'll be honest with you, I lost interest at some point too, because I thought this whole thing with about the story, and of course it's all fiction, but at the point where they all start supporting rebels, it was kind of like a very hurried thing. Like
Right? It
in
just came in
5
the
minutes
middle, like, let's
ago,
drop it in. Yes, true.
yeah, 5 minutes before that, they weren't even bothered about what is going on in the country with the rebellion and stuff. And five
True,
minutes
true.
later, all of them are like, carrying a procession or whatever, right? And I'm like, okay, wait, if you blink, you
Right.
missed it, right? You're like,
Yeah,
how did they get
I hear
get
you.
so patriotic all of a sudden? Like it was
Totally.
just so sudden. It didn't really make any sense, right? So definitely. But okay, we are almost coming up at time. So I did, I think this is more like a based on what you've already told me about what you feel about this series. It's probably a rhetorical question, but my
Yeah,
question is, would you like to see a season two of this?
I would. I mean, if
You
they
wouldn't, okay?
change the whole theme, you know how there are series where they change it in the next season where they would talk about something else? Maybe, but this was so badly made. And if we are trying to compete with other series on Netflix, like international ones, I think it was pathetic. And you see, if it was coming from somebody else, I may have thought, okay, they're new, they don't know what they're doing. Sanjay Leela Bhansali? No, no way.
Right. And
Yeah.
this is a good segue into my last question or point that I was trying to make, is that Heeramandi was supposed to be India's answer to Bridgerton, and I'm a big Bridgerton fan. I'm about to
There you
watch
go.
the season three. I've been like, oh my God, like waiting, like
My daughters were talking
impatiently.
about it today as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've been waiting impatiently, and I have a day off on Monday, and I plan to watch season three of Bridgerton. So this was supposed to be India's answer to Bridgerton, but I think besides the jewelry, which is really amazing, which I said before also, I think it left a lot to be desired in that sense, right? So
I
um,
completely
that's
agree.
yeah, that's my take on it. But good discussion. I really enjoyed getting your perspective as well. So I think we both kind of agree this series leaves a lot to be desired. You rated it 4, I rated it 7 only because of the additional points for music and for jewelry. And speaking of
Jewelry as
music,
well.
one last thing to mention, there is a song in there called Sakalban, which is like for Basant Panchami, right? And the
Yeah, yeah.
music, the dance, it is just amazing. So I do have to call that out. That I think was my favorite part of the series, was that song and that dance. So any last thoughts before we end this
Yeah, I mean,
conversation?
the music was amazing. I totally agree with you, but it was a story. Keep the viewers coming back. Don't bore them. That was
Okay.
my take. Yeah.
With those words of wisdom, thank you, Suman, for your time. And we'll catch up again with another movie, another series pretty soon. Thanks again.
Sure. Thanks, Toots. Thanks for chatting. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed listening to our conversation. And we will be back again with another podcast about some other interesting topic, I'm sure. All right. Take care. Bye.